Not adjective a bit too much.
Two
but,
is two's like I'm trying to sell it too hard.
Yeah, it's
Two for 2020.
already made
you
the
know?
sale. Stop.
Yeah.
You can stop selling. But yeah, definitely happy to be back with the female esports league. It's the League of Legends edition, of course. This year we are going to be running 2 circuits. All 4 games will be competing, or rather be put up for competition.
Yep.
So the previous year, I believe we only had League of Legends at the start of the year,
Mhm.
and then in the later half we
Mhm.
did all 4 titles. This time we're going to be doing all 4 for both
Mhm.
circuits, so it's going to be very exciting.
Yep, new year, new FSL,
Oof.
and yep, and we are starting off this season of FSL with League of Legends. So this is the very first game that we are playing for this entire new season of FSL. We are, of course, in the Vietnamese qualifiers
Yep.
for this weekend. Also, for you guys who, whatever platform you are currently watching on, if it's Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch, we also have a concurrent Vietnamese broadcast
Yes.
going on right now over on our Facebook page, since we are running a double elimination this season, kind of like the previous seasons. We are having a double elimination, so that means we have 2 games being played concurrently. Over on the English broadcast here, we are going to be bringing to you guys Iris Girls versus Team Overpower, and on the Vietnamese broadcast, which you can find on the FSL LoL Facebook page, it is going to be Evas Valkyrie versus Team Phoenix.
Yeah, definitely going to be an exciting day of games, and I believe the schedule is as such. After 2 split streams, we will sort of go back to streaming the same game because it is a double elim. So right now you can see on your screen, we are in Champion Select. On the blue side, it's going to be Iris Gaming, and on the red side, it's going to be Overpower. Iris Gaming, actually known as Box Gaming last season in the later half. They were the victors of FSL Elite in the second half of the year, and we're expecting great things coming in from them. And right now, the draft already looks pretty solid. We see some Misfortune, we see some Nami. I don't know, man. Misfortune, 100% pick bad in Kespa Cup. They got it.
I'm surprised they let that one through, but I think we are, because we see a lot of target bans from the side of Overpower. Of course, there's the Fizz, the Darius. So I mean, kind of your top meta picks right now over on patch 9.24b are going to be slipping through this game. But as you mentioned, I mean, MF together with the Nami is going to be an insane poke lane, kind of on being able to rival something like the MF and Zyra. However, Nami with the new with the way that MF works right now with Essence Reverse, especially because you want to maximize her auto, her Q, the bounce. Nami with her E is really going to be maximizing that damage output.
It's actually really ridiculous because you get additional movement speed from Misfortune's passive. You pop the, I think it's called Tide Caller's Blessing on Nami. So you
and
get
there's
extra
another
movement
15%
speed, right?
as well with that passive because of the allied spell.
Really frustrating to deal with in general.
Exactly, she just walks right up to you, she lands that Q. But then over on the Overpower side, I mean, we have the Jinx as well as the Lulu, which is a pretty classic, strong bottom lane. However, we haven't really been seeing a lot of Jinx ever, really. There's not really a meta where Jinx is that safe. And the thing is, she's going to want to scale towards late game. Are we really in the sort of late game scaling sort of meta right now?
The explanation, I think, for this is because Bong played a lot of Jinx the previous FSL Vietnam qualifiers as well as Elite. So the idea here, I guess, picking the Jinx away from Bong as well as allowing your team to progress into that late game scaling style definitely does benefit Overpower a little bit more. You can see they're drafting towards that right now.
Yeah.
Have the Jarvan utility, have the Orianna utility, so it's all eggs inside the Jinx basket right now.
It's actually ridiculous. I play some Jinx myself, and this is
it's playing the right
nowhere.
I
play
feed on some Jinx.
Playing is 100% the right word. I am playing on this champ. And this is pretty much the dream composition that you want as a Jinx. You've got the Lulu, you've got the Orianna, you've got the Jarvan to really try and set you up, especially come around level 3, level 4, and at that level 6 to really get you rolling. So yeah, it's really up to Overpower to see whether they're going to be able to make this one work.
Interesting here that Iris Gaming went for the last pick, Rise. In this patch, Rise is actually quite obnoxious to deal with. You can go Conqueror or Phase Rush, have a pretty decent lane. The problem is that against Orianna, it's considered a counter pick when you lane against Orianna. So I think HHQ here is showing that she's pretty confident playing into this matchup. Overall, though, their composition is actually pretty good in terms of tier 1 picks. You have the MF as well as the Poppy, which is going to be a very safe lane. So when it comes to team fighting, I do think that Iris Gaming does have some strength there. It's not really, too difficult to do with the overpower composition.
Yeah, I like how you mentioned that Iris Gaming went for the Rise, the last pick as well, because really one of the strengths of the Rise during picks and bans is that you can kind of safely pick him towards the middle of the draft phase, and there's not really
Right.
much of a bad lane versus him. So the fact that you're last picking the Rise, you're kind of losing a lot of that benefit. And as you mentioned, the Rise versus Orianna, Orianna, she's going to have that very strong passive. She's going to just walk up to you, she's going to AA you, and she's out of Rise's range
Yeah.
for his spells, especially early on. So
The
it's going to be a
problem
bit difficult.
in this matchup is because there's no way Rice can really trade effectively
Yep.
against Orianna, and
Mm-hmm.
the moment the Orianna decides to freeze the wave, right,
Mm-hmm.
that lane becomes very susceptible to Jarvan ganks. So
Yep.
you expect a lot of attention on the side of Overpower to be devoted to the mid lane, keeping the Rice down, pressuring the mid lane, and then you control the game through the mid lane from then on. As long as bot lane doesn't, fully int, this lane should be fine, although it is a tough matchup for the Jinx. They still look towards scaling into the late game. So I do see what Overpower is trying to do here. Their game plan is something like control mid lane, allow bot lane to be safe, and then scale into the mid to late game with a smaller lead to
Yep.
get them jump started a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Overpowered's game plan can pretty much be summed up in one word. It's Jinx.
Yeah, like don't int, let Jinx win the game.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty much it for them, right?
Or else, like, how do we win? Jinx. Jinx. We've got Jinx. That's how we're going to win. But on the side of Iris Gaming, though, when you take a look at the Poppy, Echo, and Rise, it kind of looks like they've gone for pretty safe champions as well, like utility, CC, for their top jungle as well as mid. So you're kind of thinking that the way that Iris Gaming is going to want to carry this game, of course, is going to be through the MF advantage that they have. Of course, MF being broken
Yeah.
on this patch, like we mentioned, but there's also the chance that Echo or Rise might pop off as well. But as we're seeing, Rise, versus the Orianna, it's going to be a bit unlikely. So I feel like Iris Gaming have kind of limited their options this game
Right.
in terms of how they can carry through this game, especially considering the fact that, they're going to want to have a lead come the mid game. Otherwise, once
Yeah.
they reach that 30, 35 minute mark versus the Jinx, it's going to be really difficult.
I love that you brought up timings because when it comes to competitions like this, qualifiers when it comes to within regions,
Mm-hmm.
closing games out is a bit of a tricky situation. Most
Yep.
teams don't have the proper direction or at least the set game plan to close games out cleanly. So in drafts, the team with the late game advantage tends to have like the default win.
Mm-hmm.
If your enemies can't close the game out, there's always a way back in the late game, right? Overall, though, this current patch does bring some challenges. One big thing is that jungle changes have come into full effect. So if you have paid attention to any of the recent tournaments, you realize that junglers actually level pretty slowly now. They don't get a lot of EXP from camps. So if you fall behind as a jungler, you actually don't do all too much. And Echo is someone that needs to be a hit in levels as well as items to be effective, whereas Jarvan is okay being low economy. So I think that's where the game is going to break apart a bit. Is Ali going to be able to come up with the advantage and help her team get a hit, or is she just going to fall behind fully?
Yeah, I agree. I think one thing that both the teams will really need to do well is going to be the mid to late game team fights, because both of these teams, as we were talking about how Iris Gaming, they have the Poppy, the Echo, the Rise, Overpower also have such a strong team
Yeah.
fight with the Trundle, with the Jarvan Engage, and the Orianna ultimate as well. I think a lot of the late game, if we see a
Right.
close game at that point, it's going to come down to which team executes those team fights better.
Yeah, definitely the execution is going to be a big thing. And not to mention, this is pre-season.
Mm-hmm.
The changes to the dragons have been implemented, so
Ah.
it's the rise of the elements and just a bit of a refresher for people that are not in the loop. Dragons have completely changed right now, so the way it works is that you want to collect basically 4 dragons, and on the 4th one you get a dragon soul, which gives you a bonus for the rest of the game. Only one team can get a dragon soul, and then everything onwards is just elder dragons, right?
Mm-hmm.
The important part here is that elder dragon is pretty much a win condition at this point. I think some of the casters have likened it to Exodia, where if you get like Elder Dragon, you just win the game, right? Because there's this execute component in the passive that basically allows you to kill off an enemy once they're below a certain health threshold. So that in itself presents like a win condition all team fights. Just get them below like 30%, they're dead.
Yep. It's like having the Fed support pike
Yeah.
on your team win condition.
Except that everyone gets like the
Yep.
Fed support pike. It's the
Yep.
best.
Yep. Or the worst,
Uh,
depending on which
depending
team
on-
you're on. Or the worst.
So in that case, when you think about the dragon changes, late game compositions kind of suffer a bit, because if you
Mhm.
can't contest the dragons to get to that point,
Yep.
well, you can't late game team fight against Elder Dragon, right?
Yep, and it's going to be particularly bloodthirsty this game, I think, because both teams have a fair Dragon Baron control. I'm
Mhm.
gonna say the advantage is gonna go over to Team Overpowered, of course, with the J4 and the Oriana
Yeah.
ball. But I mean, both teams have kind of a fair amount of CC. I mean, if you're thinking, you know, the Echo has a
Mhm.
way to get into the pit, Poppy as well with her R. So I'm expecting some pretty exciting fights
When you look at
around
like
these objectives.
both teams contesting Dragon, it's like a game of chicken, right? Whoever walks in first is gonna lose, because
Yep.
look at, like you mentioned, look at both of the
Exactly.
drafts. If you walk in, J4 Oriana is gonna trap you.
Yep.
Versus the other side, if you walk in,
Exactly.
it's MF Echo, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I feel like it's gonna be both teams hovering around the outside. They're like, oh, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, no, no, no,
Dozo,
no, no, no,
dozo.
no, no, you first. Oh, no, 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 you, please.
So in that sense, whoever gets the drop on Dragon, if you can sneak it away, like perfect, right? That's the dream
Mhm.
situation. But if you have to contest the Dragon at this point, like we mentioned, whoever pulls the trigger first is gonna suffer quite a bit, unless they are far enough ahead or have the items to make up for it.
Yeah, man, you know who would be great at sneaking Dragon away? Senna.
Mm.
Senna plus Senna's team. Senna's whole team.
That overall team camouflage is kind of busted.
Yep, the Rave thing. The Raves, the Mists.
Early game though, we do see some wards down onto the blue side camp.
Mhm.
It's gonna be Iris girls that actually get the proactive information, but a return ward was put down as well here from the overpower ladies. So actually, equal information being traded across on both sides.
Yeah, I believe that Poppy did walk over the ward,
Mhm.
heading up to lane. It's not gonna cost her all that much. She is a bit late going over towards the top side, however, but yep. Red handoff going
Oh.
over to Ali. Oh.
Oh, here we go. Okay,
Oh.
see a disconnect coming in.
Top crash.
Right.
believe.
Okay, reconnected. Cool. No biggie.
Yeah, we do apologize for the delay before
Mhm.
the start of the stream as well, guys. We are running off of the clean feed
Yes.
over from the Vietnamese side, and of course, with any sort of
Yeah.
live event, delays happen. It's a fact of life.
It is a bit of an issue, and I think it only really becomes a problem for the Vietnamese side when we have to use the clean feed, because we can't
Mhm.
really connect to their servers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys want that, I don't know, right into green or something, get a petition
Get
going.
us our tournament servers back. The good old
Yeah.
days.
If only, right? It's been so long.
Definitely.
Every time we
3-4
like do
years.
this kind of cast, we just like look back like, the good old days.
Yeah, I think like earlier when we were preparing for the cast as well, I was like, so there's gonna be a 3-minute delay, right? And then Hungry was just like, look, there's been a 3-minute
It's a
delay
fact of life
for
now.
years now, alright.
Looking at the jungle paths, some analysis here for you guys. Jarvan has actually did a full bot side clear, so she's not gonna get level 3 off this wolf camp, whereas Echo is also not gonna get level 3 here because she did do the raptor. So currently the only way to get level 3 really quick in the jungle is by doing 2 buffs and 1 outer camp, which is either Krugs or Golems, Krugs or Gromp. So in this case, both of them are gonna be a bit behind.
Oh, it looks
Actually,
like
no, she did. Yeah, she did get it with the wolf. Sorry.
yeah, it looks like J4 is gonna yep, there are the pings going down over from the blue side. They do have the pretty deep ward over the Raptors camp, so they know that J4 is there. And there were another 2 wards over in the deep jungle have just expired from the blue side as well. So they've been doing a lot to get some very good proactive early vision down, kind of just making sure they know where J4 is at all times. I think kind of because we touched on it briefly during picks and bans that Jarvan does have the potential once he gets like the flag and drag, the EQ combo to be a bit aggressive early on. And wow, Lulu making good use of the Q and the passive right there with extra damage from picks. Both Jinx and Lulu very low though. Jinx forced to blow both summoner spells, and Nami right now really low on mana, especially with the W early on. If you use the W, the Let's Bounce a lot. It's really not the most mana efficient, but wow, what just happened? Echo finding the kill onto J4 in the river, and their vision pays off.
Yeah, vision paying off right there and finding early advantages inside the jungle. This is a good sign for Ali because, like we mentioned, jungle EXP is much lower this patch, so if you want to come out ahead, you're going to have to find your advantages outside of the jungle camps. You can't just farm forever. You have to kind of find the CS and the kills.
Talking about you can't farm forever, it's kind of what's happening over here in bot lane right now.
Yeah.
Both these bot lanes do not want to go home. It's like we were talking about that game of chicken. Nami's so low on mana. And as I was saying about her W early on for the bounce on her W, you really do want to be able to park on at least 2 people for it to be mana efficient. If you're really just using your W to heal, what kind of amateur are you really in this day and age? But of course, doing so is still going to drop your mana quite significantly. But it looks like, yep, the Jinx and Lulu have hit it back. They did have the assistance of J4 there with their waves. So they had to pull their jungler down for a bit. And with that, MF and Nami are going to head back to base as well.
Yeah, the advantage here is this is what MF can do. The reason why MF has been really popular as well is because you can pretty much just stack Doran's blades and get a sick advantage in lane just because the nature of her AD scaling, as well as the value that she brings to the table with her auto passive and the double up on the Q.
Yep.
So you go back, you get double Dorans, you pretty much just win the lane right now. There is no way that Jinx and Lulu can trade in this lane, and the full control in the bot lane just belongs to MF right now.
Yeah, it's going to be really rough. I can see Lulu and Jinx right there. They don't want to push out this lane. That is the absolute last thing that they want to do versus the MF, also versus the Echo Jungle. And right now, Lulu's just going to take a bit of time right now, get some vision. Over into the bush, and MF just strutting into lane like she owns that one.
Yep. Mid lane, meanwhile, HHQ did go for an early recall to get tier and then did teleport back in. So now she has full control, but remember that this is a cannon wave. So it's going to take a bit more to clear out. I don't think that Orianna is going to be missing all too much here.
Yeah, Rise did use the teleport to get back into lane. Interestingly enough, the Orianna is running the Ignite. This game knows that she's got the advantage, and she's really going hard for the all-in, putting that pressure down. Isn't yet 6 though, and of course J4 right now still only level 4. When you compare it to blue side jungle level 5, Rise already level 6. Although of course Rise level 6 isn't really isn't going to add damage.
What I love to see here, though, is that because Echo did get an early lead in the top side, getting a kill on Jarvan, you can kind of push into the jungle and get vision now. Apologies if you do hear a bell on the stream. We're trying to figure out where the fire alarm is coming from. As far as I know, we are not in danger, so we're okay.
I took out my headset. I was like, wait, is production just trolling me with a bell? And I realized, no, it's actually at our studio. Yep. Well, I mean, I'm just going to hope that New Year doesn't mean new fire in the building. That would be bad.
Oh, man. Bot lane coming back in. We should expect to see... Oh, there you go. Bubble landing. Actually, a lot of damage to just go in. Oh my goodness. That double up damage, man.
Yeah, and that was really rough too because Lulu saw her Jinx get caught by the Nami bubble and instantly shielded Jinx, which means MF saw that instant opportunity to get the Q off onto Lulu.
Another thing that's good about Miss Fortune this patch, or rather why we've seen her so popular recently, is because item build's actually pretty flexible as well. You can go, multiple Doran's blades into lethality if you want to. Otherwise, you can just go, like you mentioned, the Essence Reaver crit build. Oh, hold on, fight breaking on the bot lane. Actually, just a bit of trades going on. Meanwhile, on the top side, damage down onto the Poppy. Actually, using the King's Tribute as Trundle moves in. Ultimate popped. It's going to heal her up, but I don't think they're going to chase down for this fight. So just a bit of aggressive posturing on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, bot lane, if that happened at level 6, Jinx and Lulu would be in a lot of trouble with the MFL. We'll be hitting level 6 right now. Looks like we are seeing a skirmish down in the Dragon Pit.
Oh, fight breaking out. Oh, great shockwave landing, actually. Meanwhile, it's going to be the Trundle that dies on the top side, and Jarvan taking a lot of damage and falling as well. Meanwhile, fight continuing here. Orianna next to go down. Miss Fortune using the bullet timer, completely whiffing. Jumping over the wall is Echo getting out to safety, and Bong now chasing down for the final kill. No mana on this Lulu. The passive coming out from Miss Fortune as well. That's going to be a kill given over to Bong, and this is a great start here for Iris Girls.
I feel so bad for the Lulu. She couldn't do anything at all, and you have that rogue MF just chasing you down. But as you said, great start for Iris Girls 6-0. Although I believe that the Dragon did go over to Jarvan at the start of that, but at what cost? I mean, Iris Girls are now 3,000 gold in the lead.
Remember what we said at the start, whoever pulls the trigger on the Dragon first is gonna suffer it. In that instance, I believe it was Overpower that walked in, decided to, cheekily attempt the Dragon and got caught out, and they will pay for it by losing a couple of members there on the bottom side and getting counter snowballed against.
Yeah, and if it's one thing that we really have to commend Iris Gaming on so far this game in the first 9 minutes is their really good control of vision.
Going black, but I think I know how this is going to end. It's going to be a bit Trundle. Meanwhile, on the river, Rise is going to find Jarvan here. Conqueror already procced, but with the assistance of the Orianna, should be able to get out there in the river. Conqueror, Rise actually pretty nasty if you ask me.
Yep, and there he is flashing the mastery as well for the Ultra BM Jarvan. I think we know how this one ends, Hungry.
Boom. Still has the ultimate, doesn't even need it, just uses the dive for it to get the kill there. And like we mentioned, early game, because Echo did get the first blood, this allows him or her rather to jump ahead in terms of power. Meanwhile, Tidal Wave being used by Nami in the bot side, a lot of damage down already. They're trading across pretty evenly. Super Mega Death Rocket is available, but blocked by her teammate. Bong takes one for her bot laner, support rather, and they will be able to make it out safe.
Yeah, Jinx running a bit low on the mana, of course, with those, with the Q, of course, with those empowered auto attacks. Which is a bit low. Lulu as well, crucially, still only level 5. We saw the Iris Gaming side hit level 6 on their support, and they knew they had that ultimate power spike advantage, and so they just went for that aggressive play, popped the Nami Tidal Wave, and now Lulu at level 5 still isn't really going to be that much help to Jinx. You can see Jinx popping those potions, trying to stay topped off in a lane, but both MF as well as Nami. Pretty healthy and pretty high up on mana too. Oh, the E zone is the worst.
But this is what we expected, right? Because she stacked the Doran's Blades early, she has full control of this lane, and the autos and the double just makes it so difficult.
Oh, J4
coming in for the gank. Didn't really land a flag and drag though. Cataclysm will be used for the Goomba Stomp kill.
That's just not fair. I mean, that's pretty much not, I don't want to say guaranteed kill, but when it's on the support and it's
almost
fresh
kill stealing right there, right? Scumbag jungle just takes the kill.
Well, I mean, he did put in most of the work, to be fair.
Well, good damage now onto the mid lane. The game is getting a bit spicier at this point. The goal lead is in favor of Iris Girls. I think it is at 3,500. Meanwhile, the bell still going on in the background is the best. This is the mental state of Overpower right now. The bells are going off. It's time to stop the bleeding, guys.
Ding, ding, ding. Something is amiss.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking in picks and bans that Iris Gaming is the team that does definitely need the lead in the early to mid game if they do want to contest against the scaling from the Jinx later on. So they are hit 4,000 gold at the 12-minute mark. It's bad, but not that bad.
Yeah.
Could be worse. It's kind of what they need. So it's definitely still a good chance for Overpower to come back in this game.
The goal, though, is pretty trickily split among... Oh, hold on. Play coming in here. Definitely gonna be a kill here. Lulu. Oh, buddy.
Oh, no.
Getting stuck inside the Chronosphere.
Run,
See you later.
Jinx.
Nope. You can see that happens like a disaster, right? Walking into the brush of two people.
Yeah, plus, I mean, we've been talking about Iris Gaming's vision all game. They very handily stole that blue buff right there, and it's because they had such good setup for that. They have the pink ward as well as another ward in there for good measure. So they saw Lulu going towards the blue buff to try and secure that one for her team. However, Iris Gaming, they had this set up long before that.
And that's something that Iris Gaming, or at least Box Gaming the previous season, did very well. Every time they find a kill, they go all in. And speaking of going all in, Bong is going to get the kill onto the Jinx here, flagging and dragging out. I don't think Sana wants to stick around for this one. A good amount of turret plate damage is going to be going the way of Iris Girls here in the bot lane.
Yeah, it's such good tower play damage too. They're just at the 13-minute mark.
Didn't really get the chance to use the ult there. It's going to be a shutdown going the way of the Jarvan. Meanwhile, chasing in is Bong. One more auto attack should finish her off. Will get the kill. Teleport coming in from Ren as she appears in the bot side. Not teleport, rather. She just walked over, making her way pretty quickly to the bot side. Sanna's going to be the target right now as the flash knockup. Oh, great play. But Jinx here for the backup should be enough to dissuade this dive.
Yeah, not sure if Poppy really wanted to use the ultimate, although I guess when you go in for the flash, you're pretty much all in at that point, and flash does have the longer cooldown than your CD,
Well, yeah.
than your ultimate CD, so, well, but I think so far, the first 14 minutes of the game pretty much going exactly as Iris girls have a plan. They've absolutely steamrolled over the bottom side, won the bot lane matchup. We were expecting the bot lane matchup to go this way, but not this well. I mean, 4-0-2, that's what, 40 CS up off of the Jinx. Jinx only has 80 CS to put things in perspective.
Not to mention the turret plates as well. So all these will factor into a very big lead for the Misfortune as the game approaches the mid-game mark. Meanwhile, dive coming in the bot side, tidal wave coming in, a lot of damage down onto the Lulu, and she'll be the first to fall, and Jinx soon after. My goodness, what a well-executed and coordinated dive coming in from Iris girls. This bot lane here, not getting to play League of Legends at all today.
Yeah, this is this just actually is oddly reminiscent of my solo queue games on Jinx, to be honest.
Yep.
You're like, oh, where have I seen this before? Oh, it's every single time I queue in this game. But anyway, I mean, team overpowered. The thing is, now that they've lost their bottom side turret, it's actually not that bad a thing, because now they can give Jinx and Lulu the short lane for them to hopefully farm up safely. So it looks bad. It is bad, but it could be worse, and there is still the opportunity for the Jinx to try and turn things around. I'm not sure if I'm just being overly hopeful,
You
because
are very optimistic today.
as a Jinx, I'm just always thinking that I can turn things around, and I mean, it's 2020. I want to send that type of positive energy to Team Overpower.
Positive energy not really needed in top side, as this is gonna just flash out. Trundle not wanting to stick around.
I'll have you know that last season, Team Overpower were actually called Team Open All Lane. So this season, they've renamed, they've rebranded, they're going for that positive energy, and now they're wanting to overpower their opponents instead of opening all lanes.
I mean,
it's a different mindset, Hungry.
Depression memes are so 2019. Positivity and optimism memes are 2020.
All we want are Baby Yoda memes. Show me the Baby Yoda.
Right now, goal lead has sprung to a 8,000 margin in favor of Iris girls, previously known as Box Gaming, who were the victors of FSL Elite last season, in the second half of the year at least.
Yep, first season, I believe, did go the way of Close Beyond Esports from Thailand. So just, I mean, very competitive year all around. FSL Elite, we 4 servers in Southeast Asia, 6 Southeast Asian countries.
Really, really exciting stuff, and excited to kick off another year of FSL. Meanwhile, this game, though, looking pretty in favor of Iris girls. I don't really want to call it just yet, because like you mentioned, there's the Jinx factor, but credit where credit is due. Iris girls understood, okay, it's the only basket that they have holding all their opportunities is the Jinx. So we just pretty much have to target the bot lane 24/7, neutralize that threat, and, we'll have an easier game going into the mid and late game. Or easier time, rather.
Yeah, I feel for the overpowered red side squad. I really do. I mean, it was so easy for Iris Gaming to look at their team and go, "Yep, we're targeting the Jinx." I mean, who else on this team is gonna carry? Not quite Orianna, not Trundle, not J4. It ain't the Lulu. So it was just.
We never seen a text speed with said Lulu.
Hurricane.
That was a season. That was a time, okay?
Those were the good days.
Fight breaking on the top side. Shockwave being used, but it's going to be traded 1-for-1. A lot committed for the Rise, but they will lose the Orianna in return. Meanwhile, reinforcements have arrived for Iris girls. Doesn't look like they want to chase down onto this fight, because Misfortune is nowhere near this. They're going to kite this one out and just trade the damage across, but Ren, though, will find the second kill of this fight. All backing off now on the side of Overpower, as they appear to be, like the name states, a bit overpowered.
that's actually ridiculous. The Nami bounce on the W actually did pretty significant damage to the toppling Trundle over on the overpower side. That's how far ahead Iris Gaming is at this point. They're knocking on this inhibitor right here pre 20 minutes. It's
Yeah.
just 18 and a half minutes in. Oh, nice cube. And Nami's going to have to flash out of that one.
Super
Jinx
Mega
pop-
Death Rocket actually not really finding its target. They're still chasing down a great tidal wave. Knocks everyone up, and this should allow them to escape. Meanwhile, Misfortune playing PvE in the bottom side, taking the inner turret there.
Yeah, looked a bit dicey for Iris Gaming on the disengage, especially once they got slowed by Jinx, but they are going to be able to make it out of that one, which is actually kind of a disaster, honestly, for Team Overpowered, because at 19 minutes, they're actually 12,000 gold down. Those are 2 kills that they actually really did need to pick up at this point to try and make it back into this game. I mean, we say try and make it back, but things look bleak.
It's a slippery slope. Very, very steep indeed.
Yeah.
And I don't want to like throw shade. I still want to like accredit people when they do well, and box rather Iris girls because they had such a magnificent display the previous season. This is what we come to expect from them, right?
Yeah.
Come into a game, execute your game plan according to what you had in mind, and neutralize the opponent's threats and just make it look very simple, very textbook.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Iris Gaming are the reigning FSL
reigning is
Elite
the word.
champions. Yep, they are the reigning champions. I was there at the venue when I think you and Riku were casting the finals, the entire day of those matches, and my heart broke for our home team, top 10 Dinos.
R.I.P. Sydney. Never forget. Never forget Yurif Yorick.
Eurofuric. It's got such a nice ring to it too. Eurofuric.
Oh, a lot of damage down. Psych.
Oh no!
Which is a bait all along.
Oh no, baited out. 1, 2, 3 ultimates from the side of Iris Gaming.
Summer spells as well. That was a great chrono break coming in from Ali. She has a lot of experience on this Echo. You can see her understanding of how to path and how to engage and really bait out summer spells is a great sign of that.
Yeah, but I mean, talking about summoner spells, Oriana, that Ignite, I don't think really worked for her. This game hasn't paid off yet. Was a bit aggressive, a pickup we did mention earlier.
I would have liked to see a summoner spellbook Oriana because in general you have a really good time in this matchup anyway. Having access to different summer spells. Oh, hold on, top side. Jinx immediately dying there, no chance of survival. Chasing on in to the inner turrets. It's going to be a flash out from the Trundle. Actually chasing in a little bit more proto belt. Not enough damage to finish off the Trundle there. But the consolation prize here is the Jinx and the inner inhibitor here. Not sure if Iris Girls are going to be pushing in for any more though.
Yeah, I mean, only 21 minutes in, so death timers are really low. Jinx is actually going to be up in about 10 more seconds. And Iris Gaming don't quite have the minion wave that they want to be able to finish this one off. So it looks like Overpowered are going to stick around for at least one more team fight. There is that huge wave over in top side that Iris Gaming are pinging. It doesn't look like they want to rotate towards that. However, Jinx is back up, and right now, Overpowered just in shambles trying to defend their base.
One thing I love about this preseason is that with the changes to support items, you get the evolution on the trinkets much quicker without spending any gold, right? That opens up outlets for mages as well as carry style supports, if you will, like Pyke, to get their items earlier, which is why we saw the ebb and flow from Nami deal a lot of damage, which is why she's so much more impactful this game, and why Lulu as an enchanter doesn't really have a lot of value apart from Iron Sensor. Oh, hold on, going all in onto the Jarvan, ensuring that there's no opportunity for a steal here. We'll be jumping back into the pit soon as Ali, and there you go. Jarvan taken out, Smite available, will be secured here by Iris Girls.
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous that they sent the Rise over the top side, and the Rise is single-handedly zoning 4 members of the Overpowered team.
Did the Baron get stolen by Jinx?
Wait, what?
The Super Mega Death Rocket stole it away.
What?
Whoa, okay, ladies and gentlemen. There's still a little bit of fight left here.
What? No way, they do have the Baron buff. On 4 members. What?
They're picking the Smite.
They're
picking the
oh
Smite.
no, they're pinging their Echo. Oh no.
Feels bad. Oh man, is this the start of the throw? I don't know, man. HHQ looks pretty upset.
Start of the throw. This is the start of the 2020 FSL season. I am so here for this game.
It's not over yet. 10k goal behind. But there's still some fight left in Overpower.
You know, when we were talking in picks and bans about the late game Jinx power spike, this was not quite the spike that I was
this is like
expecting.
step one. This is step
The
one.
Baron buff steal was not quite the spike that I was expecting.
I love how regardless of, region or language,
Yeah, those
picking the
echo
jungler's
pings.
smite when
And
the Baron gets
and the
stolen.
best part is that all those 6 pings were from MF. It's not even one from each team member.
I
It was
love it.
just the AD carry being like, "Excuse me,
Yep.
jungle?"
Love it.
Question mark.
Uh, I love this broadcast.
Oh, I love
Right.
this game. 10 years in,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
this
it's been
game
like a
is
decade,
still
yeah.
as fun, no matter the meta.
So having Baron buff on the side of Overpower makes it slightly more difficult for Iris
Mhm,
Girls to push in, but
exactly.
there is still that value, of being able to siege down with the super minions barging in on the mid lane.
Yeah, but they're a lot better able to protect their. I think the last two they have standing is their bottom as well as their top inhibitor tower because of the extra range from their minions.
In fact, they're gonna send the Rise to the top side to defend against, or rather push in the wave once more. Baron buff available for a couple more minutes. I think the timer left is about a minute or a minute and a half before it will expire. So this buys some time for Overpower to turtle up and power the Jinx up actually, because you're talking about how she is the late game insurance for this team. So if they can get her to that point, it'll be good.
Exactly. And the thing is, so at this point, like, we're not entirely sure if Overpowered really can turn this one around. But the thing is, the fact that Iris Gaming didn't get Baron means that they can't end it just yet. If Iris Gaming had gotten Baron, that would have been lights out. Oh?
Fight breaking on the bot side, Jarvan engaging with the rest of the team available, though it's going to mean that Senna will fall first. Bit of a rookie mistake, sometimes a miscommunication happens, but with the Jarvan going down, makes it a 4v5, and having to flash away here is the Jinx. She doesn't want to get caught by the Echo. Now they're going to have to back off. Bullet time coming in. Not enough to really finish the kill, though. It will zone everyone away and open up the base here for Iris Girls. Although victory has been stalled out for a bit more, they will be barging in onto the structures next to the Nexus.
Yeah, looks like Iris Gaming aren't going to be able to close this one. Oh, nice Poppy ultimate. Jinx, not really anything else they can do. Nexus tower down to half health already. And that's it. Iris Gaming are going to be able to finally, took a bit of time, but we got there in the end. They close out game one kind of in the way that we were thinking. I mean, we expected great things from this team since they are the reigning FSL Elite Champions, and a bit of missteps, some messy play here and there, but eventually, I mean, they definitely did deliver.
The thing is, we sort of alluded to this earlier in the broadcast about how, these regional qualifiers at this current stage, closing games out very tricky for some of them. And when they lost the Baron, you could see like, oh well, there's some cracks there. Yeah, like really afraid. I was genuinely afraid because that bought some time for the Jinx to farm back in, but because of a small mistake coming in from the Jarvan player, engaging without the team around, couldn't really turtle up in time, did cost them the game towards the end. Not to say that it wasn't already, hard fought and won by Iris Gaming earlier already.
Yep, and with that, I believe since Iris Girls won that game, they are going to go to the second stage since this is a double elimination. Both teams still have another match to play for, but Iris Girls will be playing against Team F Girl. In the next matchup, because we did have 6 teams in this season of the Vietnamese qualifiers. So we did have 2 teams. I believe it was V Gaming as well as F Girl, which did get seeded into the second round. So since Iris Girls won the first game, they will be
proceeding forward.
Yep, they'll be playing against F Girl. It will be F Girl's first match. So it's going to be kind of exciting to see how they do against suddenly Iris Girls who managed to close out that game. And since double elimination, Overpowered will be playing a game versus the loser of the EVOS Valkyrie versus Phoenix match.
With that, guys, we will be going for a short break. When we come back, all the matches will be up for you. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.